Hello, winners. Listen up. Are you feeling like life is spinning out of control, stuck in a swirl of stress and burnout and never ending to do lists? I've been there. It's time for you to hit the pause button and power up. I'm Coach BU, the breakthrough strategist. Tonight, we're diving into part two of work life balance, crushing the overwhelm of imbalance. And so I'm here today to not just talk to you about transformation. I'm here to break down the mess of stress, handing you real tools like the zooming technique. We touched on it in the last line, but we are going to break this down to step-by-step actions that you can immediately take immediately after this live and see some traction that gets you action. So when we're looking at breaking down the mess of stress and handing you real tools like the zooming technique, this is for laser focus so that you can prevent burnout and break through to balance. All of life is about a balance. Anything that's out of balance is going to create chaos in your life. And we want to create the type of balance where we can soar in the bedroom and soar in the boardroom. From your professional life to your personal life, I want to empower you with real tools that'll take you to the next level. No one here is looking for a band-aid for now. We need a breakthrough for life. We need something to happen. We need to shift gears. We need to go from surviving to thriving. If that's you, then I want you to drop me something in the chat because this is where winners get their steak dinners. Okay. Oh, that kind of rhymed. I didn't plan that. But this is, we call Tuesday night, 7:30, the steak dinner of breakthrough, because I want to come and I don't want to just give you quick fixes and cliches. I'm not that coach. I'm a custom coach. I believe that as much as we are the same, we are different. And in being a custom coach, you need to give your clients a plethora of options because what's going to work for Sally may not work for Alice. And what works for Jessica may not work for Marie. And what works for Marie may not work for Brenda. So I want to give you a variety of tools. You try them out, see how they work. And these tools are designed to give you quick breakthrough, quick results. We're not here. You don't hire a coach so that you can take the long road. You hire a coach so that you can take the swift road to results, so that you can change the trajectory of your future. And that's what we're all about here at Breakthrough for Life. So if you are ready to stop surviving and start thriving, hit that subscribe button if you're on my YouTube channel. Follow me if you're on LinkedIn, Instagram, or oops, I forgot to turn Instagram on. I'm always forgetting to turn Instagram on. Last week, Instagram got totally missed. So y'all just charge it to my head, not my heart. And so I want to come tonight and I want you to hit that subscribe button because I'm going to come to you live every Tuesday night at 7:30 and talk about real topics that get real results. And so I want to help you thrive. So let's take a look at where everyone is coming from today. So we have Ann Siri, looking forward to learning to crush overwhelmed tonight. I'm so excited that you're here. Thank you so much for joining. Antoinette, where dinners get their steak dinner. I mean, where winners get their steak dinners. Don't you love that? That was so clever. You know, I just love it when God show up and do stuff. Look, I need God to show up every time I open my mouth because otherwise it may be problematic. So praise God. Thank you guys for being here. I am so looking forward to you guys getting some information, but not just getting information, applying it. I want to help you thrive in multiple areas of life. So definitely come into the chat, ask me questions, let's engage, and let's make this happen. So let's talk about balance in its totality. We're just going to talk about how balance operates in our life. When we look at balance, I want you to understand that anything that goes into the extremities is going to create chaos in your life at some point. So I used to be 235 pounds. And so I used to drink half of my body weight in ounces, right? And when I dropped 70 pounds, I was still drinking half of 235 ounces in water. And guess what happened? I started getting dizzy. I started to think that I had vertigo because I now had too much water for 160 pounds. And so when you begin to look at where you're out of balance in your life, where are you into extremes? So extremes are always going to be the devil's playhouse. It may be fun for a little while, but at some point, operating in extremes are going to bring chaos into your world. And you don't want to bring chaos into your world. What you want to do is you want to bring balance, and balance is intentional. So let me talk to my entrepreneurs out there. When we look at balance, when we look at creating a work-life balance in between what we do in work and what we do at home, what happens is we will often gain freedom as an entrepreneur. I know when I first became an entrepreneur, it's like I can do what I want to do. I can do what I want to do, when I want to do it, how I want to do it, with who I want to do it. I ain't got to punch no clock. Guess what? When you don't work, you don't eat. And so there's a balance to what you do for work and then what you turn around and you do for relaxation. There needs to be a balance between those two things. And so when you begin to look at where you're at as an entrepreneur, have you allowed your freedom to rule in such a way that now you don't have any balance? You are just willy-nilly doing whatever you want whenever you want to do it, and then you're wondering why you're not getting a paycheck like you did when you worked in corporate. Part of the reason why corporate works well is because corporate is well structured. You know when you start, you know where you're going to end, you know what you need to do, you have your task list, you have your priorities, and not only that, you have someone over you keeping you accountable. But when you become an entrepreneur, if you're an entrepreneur in Christendom, then your CEO is Jesus, and he don't miss nothing. You can't lie to the spirit realm. There is no deception in the spirit realm. So when you begin to look at where is your life out of balance, where are you into extremes? Are you saying yes too much, or do you need to go watch my video on the power of no? And sometimes no can feel harsh, but no is a protector of what's great that needs to be done in your life. So sometimes you're going to have to say no to some good stuff so you can do some great stuff. And sometimes you're going to say no to some great stuff so you can say yes to some God stuff. Your yeses have power because your yeses give your energy, gives your time, gives your attention. Like I said yes to helping launch a new business. And let me tell you, it's raking me over the coals because it's like now I have got to balance, because I want you to write this down. Someone please put this in the chat. If you have a lot to do, the more you have to do, the more organized you must be. You'll hear me say that almost every live. The more you have to do, the more organized you must be. And so we want to make sure that when we're saying yes, we have counted the cost, that we have taken into inventory how far the drive would be if I'm going somewhere to help someone, how much time is going to be required. What are they look? Ask some questions before you say yes. I like what one of my clients that I'm working with, he's an entrepreneur, and he owns some hotels down south. And he says one of the things that he's learned since he's been working with me is to say maybe. So then he can then go back and count the cost of everything he's got going on and then come back and let his yes be yes and his no be no. Because anything outside of your yes being yes and your no being no, you are operating in enemy territory. And that means you are inviting chaos into your world. Okay, so let's be people of integrity. Let's keep our word to ourselves so that we can keep our word to others. One of the things that I have learned, and you know I'm a book junkie, right? Is in this book, The Speed of Trust by Stephen Covey. He talks about how in order for you to trust other people, you have to first trust yourself. And one of the things that I've learned about living a winning life and being a confident woman of God is that when I trust me, I can trust everyone else better. That means that I have to be able to keep my word to me in every instance. And so I'm very careful with how I give my word, because I know once I give it, even to my harm, I need to keep it as much as possible. So stay out of the extremities of things. When we get into too much work, so we talked about an entrepreneur and having too much leisure time, just willy-nilly, having no structure to their day. You know, their kids call dad or mom, I need this, I need that. And you drop everything in the middle of the day and you go and you rescue them. Okay. When you were working a job, what would you have done? Because you couldn't just hop off your job and just go do whatever in the middle of the day. right? But you will do that when you're running your own business. Why is that? Why is it that we show up for other people more than we show up for ourselves? Why is that? And so we really want to take a step back and reflect on why is it that when it's for someone else, I'll show up, but when it's for my own business, I won't show up. I'll go give 40 hours a week to somebody else's dream, but I won't come and give an hour a night, 5 days a week to my dream, to the dream God's given me. And I really believe that your entrepreneurial dreams are not your dreams, because entrepreneurship is not for the faint of heart. There's a lot more involved than just the art of business, but this live is not about that. But what I want to share with you guys is you really have to get to the place where you have structure in order to have balance. Balance is intentional. So if you work too much and you have no leisure time, that's going to lead to burnout. You need to be able to disconnect from the world so that you can recharge your battery. And that is going to require you to be very intentional. So when you're looking at, I'm an entrepreneur, I can do what I want, and I'm not working as much, I have no structure, don't be surprised when you have chaos in your world. If you are an entrepreneur and you're just working, you're grinding hours after hours after hours, and you don't take a break, you are creating a fertile ground for burnout to thrive. I've read some research. It takes almost 2 to 3 years for you to get into a burnout state, and it takes just as long to get out of a burnout state. So let me help you not even get into a burnout state. Amen. Who wants some help to not even get into a burnout state so you don't have to spend 3 to 4 years trying to get out of a burnout state? And a burnout state is when you are working with no recharge, no relaxation, no fuel going into your tank. You are just burning that tank on E, trying to get to where you're trying to go. And I get it. As an entrepreneur, I've been there. I've worked 12, 14 hours days. I've pulled 24-hour shifts in my business because I wanted to make accelerated results. But let me tell you what, even when I'm pulling a 24-hour shift, or even when I've done a 12-hour shift, I'm not of that grind culture. I'm of the balance culture. So guess what? Sunday and Monday, I totally discharge. I literally, on my last day of work, I make a list on my last day of work. These are the things that must be done in order for me to get off work, close, and let me grab a book and close the chapter. This is my planner that I keep all of my work on. I want to be able, on my last day of work, that may be a Friday for you, that may be a Saturday. It's a Saturday for me. And so when you begin to look at what do I have to have done in my day so that when I get off work, I can close the book. The book for work stays right here at 6340 Sugarloaf Parkway, and I don't look at it again until I come back in on Tuesday. Part of the reason why I anchored this live on Tuesday is to make my butt get up and show up. Some of us just need to get up and show up. So let's see what's going on in the chat. So we have Ann, why do we show up for others, but not always for ourselves? Yes, that's the question that I want you to ask yourself. What is it that you get out of showing up for others that you don't get out of showing up for you? Do you need to increase your value of what God has given you? Do you need to appreciate the opportunity to run your own businesses? Because a lot of people don't have that opportunity. My son runs his own business, and he has had the luxury to stay at home, pay minimal rent, and really hone his craft, right? And he was telling me the other day, God, thank you, Mom. I'm so thankful for this opportunity to hone my craft, to really get into it. And so with that, you know, we all have those times in our lives where we have to just say no to everybody else and say yes to us. He said, no, I'm not dating women right now. I'm not looking for a mate right now. I'm looking to hone my craft, get my business thriving, and then I will open my eyes up to possibly pursuing a mate. And so that's priorities. That is being intentional. That is saying, this is what I'm moving towards, and my energy and my focus is going here for a short period of time. I'm going to sacrifice so that I can have a longer period of time of thriving. Amen. Okay, so let's see, what is Don? Don, I'm so happy to see you. I'm waiting for you to schedule your follow-up session. I hadn't seen it on my calendar yet. Where you at, girl? Okay, that's what I'm working on, is structure. Yes, structure is required. Just imagine if you tried to build a house that had no structure, that it had Play-Doh for beams. That structure wouldn't last very long, right? That house wouldn't stand very long. What if you had a house that didn't have any foundation? It was just a dirt floor. That would be problematic, right? And so we really want to thrive, to create a structure that works for us. Look, my structure don't work for you. I work Tuesday through Saturday. Some people are like, I would love to do that. I can't. I have to work Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. Okay, that's the structure of your life right now. But let me tell you what, in order for me to get to having the structure I have now, I had to think about it when I had the 8 to 5 structure. You need to be intentional about what you want. You don't want to live too far in the future, because that can create disappointment. And let me tell you, 2024 has taught me about that. But you do have to visit the future so that you can anchor your decisions based on what's going on in your future, what you want. You can align your present day actions with where you want to go in your future, so that you can thrive, so that you can get what you want out of life, so that you can change the trajectory of your future from what you do now. Okay, I hope that this is chiming in for you guys. I want to get on to one of the next things. So we talked about balance and what balance means, and being in the extremes of balance. And so let me go ahead and put this up here so that you guys know what we're talking about. And so the next thing that I want us to take a look at, now that we've talked about the extremities, the things that create an imbalance in our life, let's talk about the mess of stress. Stress is a choice. And whenever I say that, people always look at me like, what are you talking about? Stress isn't a choice. Yes, stress is a choice. What ticks one person off won't tick the next person off. And so you have to ask yourself, what meaning are you attaching to each event that you have? I had a feeling that something was going wrong with something. And that was really, sometimes our feelings of something is going wrong has to do with our past experiences, and it's not real. I tell people all the time, your perception is your reality, even if your perception is skewed. So you want to have a true reality of what's going on in your world. And in order to have a true reality of what's going on in your world, you have to stop and reflect. You have to stop and say, what is it about this situation that is stressing me out? So ask yourself, what is stressing me out about this? Is it because I have a fear that this isn't going to be taken care of? Is it because I am afraid that I won't be able to get it done in time? You know, what is it that's stressing you out? And really get clear, reflect, write about it, journal about it, so you can really become aware of what's going on the inside of you, so that you can take hold of it and really grow. Because when you become self-aware and you own what it is, then you can change it. Like, for instance, I get stressed when I'm running late for stuff, because people's time is important. And I hate leaving people hanging. So I've really worked hard to orchestrate things in my life to make sure I'm on time where I go. Sometimes I hit it, sometimes I don't, But one of the things that stresses me out when I'm running late is because I feel like that person's going to feel like I'm disrespecting their time. So when I do run late, I let them know that I'm running late before the appointment time. It blows my mind when people cancel an appointment at the time of the appointment. I just fired a whole sales staffing team for one of my clients that I work for. I fired his whole, he had third party sales team, and they kept canceling meetings with him like the morning of. Like we're supposed to meet at 11 o'clock, and at 10:59 they're sending a cancellation. So that's very disrespectful. I just fired a whole team for that. And so when I'm late, I'm giving myself the same pressure. And so my thing is, if I'm running late, to release that pressure, I want to let you know in advance, sorry, I'm running 10 minutes late. And if I say I'm 10 minutes late, I'm 10 minutes late. I'm not 15, 20 minutes late. And all the pressure that I have on not disrespecting someone else's time really plays a role in the stress that I choose to hold. Okay, so stress is a choice. Dig into why you're stressed. So now, if I'm running late, I'm not near as stressed. I let people know. I apologize. If I'm late for a coaching session, which is very rare that I'm late for a coaching session, but if I'm late for a coaching session, if I'm more than 5 minutes late, they automatically get a free coaching session, whether they want it or not. I'm going to gift them a free coaching session because I want to show them that I respect their time. Look, we can make more money. I can go make another $1,000. I can't make another 60 minutes. So respect people's time, and people will respect your time. I have a friend of mine that is constantly having things go haywire in his world. And I'm like, I'm thinking in my head, well, part of that is because you don't keep your word to people. So people don't keep their word to you. It's a boomerang, y'all. We need to show up for others the way we want people to show up for us. And yes, we do have to have grace. Yes, we do have to be empathetic, but we also need to have structure if we're going to have balance. Balance doesn't work without intentional structure. And that doesn't mean that you become so rigid that you are simply inflexible. Yeah, you do have to have some level of flexibility, but remember, we're talking about extremities. When you are out of balance, you're operating in extremities. And when you operate in extremities, you are creating a fertile ground for overwhelm. And overwhelm is the trigger for procrastination. So when we look at the mess of stress caused by overwhelm and how to break free, that's what this section is all about. The mess of stress and how to break free. And so I want you guys to put in the chat, what is something that has stressed you out over the past month? Just, you don't have to tell your personal business, and I'm not going to read a whole 5-paragraph comment, but just real quick, my kids, my job, my boss, my workload, a legal case, whatever. What is stressing you out? Because we're going to talk about the mess of stress, how to overcome it so that you can be healthy, because it has an impact on your health. And so I really want to hear from you on what has caused stress in your world. So we're talking about the mess of stress and the impact on our health. So there are 3 types of stress. When we think about stress, we just think, oh, stress is just anytime I'm not feeling 100%. Nope, that's not the case. Okay. Stress, there's 3 levels to stress. And when we break the cycle of toxic thinking, we can also break the habit of absorbing stress, right? Because stress is a choice. We've already defined that. Stress is a choice, and there's levels to this stress game, okay? And according to Dr. Caroline Leaf, I'm going to repeat the quote so that she gets credit for it. When we break the cycle of toxic thinking, we can also break the habit of absorbing stress into our bodies. Dr. Caroline Leaf, she is a Christian brain scientist. And so in her book, Who Switched Off My Brain, Dr. Caroline Leaf, any of you who've been in my circle for any period of time, I recommend this book to every single person that I've ever met, for the most part, because this book was life-changing for me. And the mess of stress, there's 3 levels to stress. And so let's talk about the 3 levels to stress. So, okay, great. People are putting things in the chat telling me what's going on in their life with stress. And so I love I love coaching givers because givers enrich every community. I love what is going on in the chat. I love it. So the book by Dr. Caroline Leaf, who switched off my brain and has read the book, and she believes that that's a great book. So if you haven't gotten it, I hope that you will get it. It is a phenomenal book. So there's 3 levels to stress. Stress stage 1. That's simple stress. You have a speaking engagement, or it's the first time you've got to speak in a board meeting, or the first time you're doing a corporate training, or first time you're speaking to your colleagues at the Gwinnett Chamber, what have you, right? And it's stage 1 stress. So it's a speaking engagement, you got sweaty palms, all that stuff. That's temporary stress. That stress comes and flows and goes. Okay. Then we have stage 2 stress. Stage 2 stress is when temporary stress is not released after the initial impact and starts becoming harmful to the body. So level 2 stress, literally, we begin to create long-term stress in your body. Okay, that's level 2 stress. That's when you haven't released the initial burst of stress you got from whatever the thing was that was stressing you out. And so these are some of the things that people are talking about, stress them out. Family relationships. Yes, that family dynamic is an interesting one. And sometimes I tell people all the time, in the Bible, all those ites was cousins. Jacob and Esau were brothers. There's a lot of conflict amongst family. And this is one thing that I have kept close to heart when it comes to the stress of family relationships. Live as peaceably with people as much as it is up to you. As much as it's up to you. Some folks just like conflict. Some folks just like drama. Some folks just like strife. And I'll be honest, there's times when I was coming out of being such a toxic world that I literally looked for toxicity. And now I'm almost repelled by toxicity. I get real quiet around people who are real toxic because I have trained my brain not to embrace that. And so there's so much information I'd love to give you guys on that topic. We may do our next topic all about mindset. And so then Don says, the more I get rid of, the better I feel. Good. The more junk you get rid of in your life. And I'm not into cutting people off. Let me say this because this can be misconstrued. I'm into boundaries. Boundaries are a gate to let people in and out based on their behavior. However, walls are walls that keep the good out and the bad out. I'm not for cutting people off. I'm for different levels of access to people. Some people have a great deal of access, some people don't. Let's take a look here. Don says, my home is stressing me out. I'm working on getting it decluttered and organized. Let me tell you, when you get your home decluttered and organized, I talked about this in the live last Tuesday, it literally defogs your brain. When I feel foggy in my brain, I clean up. And when I clean up, I feel better externally and internally. They impact each other. So thank you guys so much for your comments in the chat. So let's get back to the mess of stress. So when we look at the mess of stress, we look at there's level 1, that's temporary stress. Level 2 stress is when we haven't released the temporary stress and now it's getting into our cellular structure. Then there's level 3 stress. Level 3 stress is chronic stress. And this is when your body reaches exhaustion from constantly being on high alert. Fight or flight, all the time in a fight or flight stage. That is going to create a stress in your body. And let's talk about what that stress does to your body. So I'm coming to you straight out of the book. So I'm going to give you the cliff notes, and I hope that it entices you to go and get the book. So when we look closely at these 3 levels of stress, one of the things that you have to understand is that there are consequences that can come from allowing stress to become ingrained in the trees of our brain. And she talks about dendrites in our brain, and they literally do look like trees. And these trees, when you have a positive mindset, when you're operate in gratitude, when you show up for yourself, when you keep your word for yourself, when you are a good human being and you do right by people, even when they do you dirty, even when they are foul to you, even when they lie to your face, and you can still love them, then you're operating in a God type love. Think about how much God puts up from us. And he says to love like he loves. That takes some next level prayer. That takes some next level consecration. That takes some next level surrender. And so when you begin to look at the consequences of stress, stress in the body begins to kill the dendrites in your brain. And it starts to look like barren trees in the winter. But when you operate in gratitude, when your self-care is strong, when you are a good human being, it actually flourishes like trees in the spring. And it allows you to spring forward with greater optimism. And so when you look at stress are things like, and I say this all the time, repressed pain creates poison in the soul. Can somebody type that in for me? Repressed pain creates poison in the soul. Repressed pain creates poison in the soul. And not soul, but you could use soul, SOUL for SOIL, because from the abundance of the heart, the mouth flows, and God calls us to guard our hearts with all diligence, for from it the flow the issues of life. Okay, so when we begin to look at the stress coming in, that stress disguises itself in things like unforgiveness, bitterness, anger, rage. And we don't say this word hatred in the Christendom, but whenever we are talking negatively about someone, tearing them down, talking about sharing personal elements of their business, we're slandering them. That's considered murder. You're murdering their character. You're murdering um, their reputation to other people. And that's a form of hatred. Did you know that? Yes. And hatred isn't just, I can't stand you and I don't want you around. Hatred is also, I'm going to ignore you and act like you totally do not exist. That's another form of hatred. Now, I got that from a book that was all about anger, and I forget. I have to go find that book for you guys. But when I was really struggling to get over my anger issues, and I'm so proud of the Holy Spirit, He has really helped me with that. And I'm not putting out a beacon in the spirit realm for something to come tick me off. I curse it at its root right now. But getting over your anger issues has a lot to do with how you think about things, how you process your experiences in life. Okay, so let's talk about the areas that level 2 and level 3 stress are going to impact. So let me first break this down to you. I got to bring some stuff to you from Dr. Lloyd from the Healing Codes book. And what you need to understand about stress. Stress in the body becomes a part of your cellular structure. Your body is designed to fight off every single illness that hits it. It is. Our bodies were not designed to die. They were designed to live forever. But then Eve had to go eat that fruit, and that fruit wasn't an apple, it was a fruit. And she had to go eat that fruit, and Adam let her eat that fruit. And now we all got to transition from this world at some point, unless God blows the trumpet, right? So when we're looking at stress, when we embody stress, our bodies are designed to fight it. But when our bodies stay in phantom fight or flight mode, because it's fighting phantom fears, the fear of inadequacy, the fear of failure, the fear of the unknown, the fear of rejection, the fear of success, the fear of criticism. When you are fighting phantom fears all the time, your immune system is in this fight or flight mode. And then when high blood sugar hits it, it has no defense, because it's exhausted. We have exhausted our immune system by phantom stress, things that, as my pastor Jensen would say, a much to do over nothing. We worry about stuff that don't even come true. And so now for the outside world, people who are not in Christendom, um, what they hold in fear consciousness manifests. But those who are in Christendom, we take our fears according to Psalm 34:4. We take our fears to the Lord and he delivers us from all of our fears. Where are you placing your fears? On the phone with your girlfriend? I ain't got a phone. I done put all my phones away. On the phone with your girlfriend? Is that where you're placing your fears? On the phone with your girlfriend? Or are you placing your fears at the throne of the Most High God who can deliver you from all of your fears? That's where we want to put our fears. And so when your immune system is exhausted because it's in level 3 stress too often, too frequently, chronic worry, chronic stress, chronic, you're always worried about something. You're always uptight about something. You're always mad about something. You're always agitated about something. You are in a chronic state of stress, and it is stressing your body out, and it's going to show up in the breakdown in your immune system. So now heart disease comes against it, and it could have been avoided if you had reduced your stress. Because according to Harvard, Princeton, Yale, all the Ivy League schools say that 95% of all of the illnesses come from stress. And the 5% that doesn't come from stress comes from the stress of your ancestors. It's hereditary. So if we will reduce our stress, we can capture back our lives. People ask me, Brenda, how do you stay looking young? And I'll tell them, one, I've been drinking water. Like, honey, I drinks me some water. Me and my bladder have to have conversations. Sometimes I drink so much water. And that helps replenish my body. 75% of your body is made up of water. So you need to drink water. And I'm not talking about the water that's in Coca-Cola. And I'm not talking about water that's in lemonade. I'm talking about pure, good water. Do your research because not all water is equal. So, and I also release my stress. I use the tools that I show you. When I get stressed about stuff, I have people I talk to, I pray. There's a whole nother level to this game. Just like there's levels to stress, there's levels to getting rid of stress. And you need to find what works for you. And so this is what happens, the mess of stress. When it starts to be chronic in your body, it's going to hit 3 areas: the heart, the immune system, and your digestive system. Okay, those 3 areas is where it's going to hit. So can I break this down for you? Can I break this down all the way to the white meat? This is why I say thank you, Antoinette, for putting this in the chat for me. Repressed pain causes poison in the soul. The reason why I say that is because of this. So neurologically, your heart is sensitive to what you think and feel. Your thoughts directly affect heart. Directly. So here are some examples of various heart conditions where stress is a major contributor. Okay. Major contributor: high blood pressure, hypertension, angina, chest pain and spasms of the heart, hardening of the arteries, causing narrowing, which can be triggered by anger. Let me tell you, when I started realizing how much anger could cause a heart attack, I started really dialing in on my anger. I stopped giving people the power to make me so mad. Some people, I mean, recently, a young lady that I adore, I love her, but she has some toxic ways that she operates. And I had to just tell her, I have to excuse myself from this because I can't deal with this level of toxicity, because it was making me angry. And in making me angry, all of my tools weren't working because she would gaslight me on something. I'd be like, girl, who are you talking to? I got a memory of an elephant. And so things would happen. And I said, you know what? I'm not cutting her off. I still love her. I still pray for her. I just need to distance myself from her toxicity. Okay. Because anger causes hardening of the arteries. Okay. Now I'm getting this from the book. This is coming straight from a brain scientist, right? I like to give credit where credit is due. And aneurysms, a ballooning or swelling of a blood vessel on the artery or ruptures the blood vessel. And so when that blood vessel ruptures, it ruptures, I'm talking about the rapture, ruptures, then that can cause an aneurysm, and people die from aneurysms instantly. Your stress is not something to play with. You need to learn tools to get rid of it. So, with that being said, the brain in your heart acts like a checking station for all the emotions generated by the flow of chemicals created by your thoughts. Your thoughts create chemicals in your brain. And you don't want to create stress chemicals that is going to cause your body to not fight real threats like hypertension, like aneurysms, like strokes. You want to decrease your stress so you can increase your lifespan. The second area is your immune system. This is where your toxic thoughts and prolonged chronic level 2 and level 3 stress are going to have an impact on your immune system. And the way that it does this, your immune system is definitely shown to be neurologically sensitive to your thought life. When your immune system faces an attack, such as when a thought is toxic, it generates blood proteins called cytokines. And so I'm going to type this in. I know that when I type stuff in, it doesn't show up on all of the platforms, but we're going to just say that the people who need to see it will see it. But this is what it's called, cytokines. And these are blood proteins, and this is what it does. So when your immune system faces an attack, such as when your thought life is toxic, it generates blood proteins called cytokines, which are known to produce fatigue and depression. You want to pull out of your depression, you need to get a vision that is different from what you're experiencing in life at the present time. Okay. In this way, toxic thoughts and the emotions they generate interfere with the body's natural healing process. They compound the efforts of illness and disease by adding new negative biochemical processes that the body must struggle to overcome. So when we're looking at our negative thoughts, we need to check them because they're creating a poison in our soul and in our body. The last area that chronic stress is going to hit is the digestive system. And this is easy because I've experienced all of these since a small child. And that probably has to do with the fact that I was molested from the age of 2 to 5 years old. I grew up in a very toxic household. My mother really thought about aborting me for a variety of reasons. And so I came into this world and it was a fight. I mean, from the day I was born, it was a fight. And so ever since I was a little girl, I've always had digestive issues. Now I know why. I don't have any digestive issues anymore because we've healed it. But I have been diagnosed with almost every single one of these at some point in my life. Constipation, diarrhea, nausea and vomiting, cramping, ulcers, leaky gut syndrome. That's when nutrients leak out of the stomach and colon and don't make it to your cells. That means all that healthy eating ain't doing you no good because you got leaky gut. This one was serious for me. They wanted to do surgery on me. And thank God I was a believer and I knew what to do. Irritable bowel syndrome, it's called IBS, when the intestines either squeeze too hard or not hard enough, reducing optimum absorption of nutrients. So all of these things are all byproducts of the mess of stress. When we create a situation where we are overwhelmed, we create fertile ground for stress. So this is the next thing I want you guys to type in. Antoinette typed in, repressed pain causes poison in the soul. Now, let's talk about the other side of that. We talked about the problem. I'm not going to just come to you and talk to you about problems. We don't just talk about this is the issue and you need to figure it out. No, I'm going to give you the tools to help you get a breakthrough for life and not a band-aid for now. And repressed pain causes poison in the soul. But if someone could type this into me, processed pain frees the soul. You need to process the pain you endured And sometimes this is done in coaching, sometimes it's done in therapy. Whatever works for you. I like coaching because coaching gets results faster. Therapy, according to the psychiatric board, takes 1.5 to 3 years of therapy to get true breakthrough. And coaching and therapy are not the same. They use two totally different modalities, and coaches are not therapists, but coaches can help you reframe your thinking to traumatic situations that have happened in your past. And so when you look at processing the pain, it's going to free your soul. It's going to reduce your stress. And one of the tools that I give all of my clients is LTP, lie, truth, proof. If you are a client of mine and you've ever used the LTP, lie, truth, proof, I want you to leave me what your thoughts are. And if it wasn't a good thought, leave that too. I want to know if my tools don't work, because I'll go back to the laboratory and we'll get some tools that work. Trust me on that. Okay. So when we look at processing the pain, we need to understand that that means that we create our world through our thoughts. As a man thinketh, so is he. That's why God tells us, he said in Romans 12:2, do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. We have to renew our mind in order for us to get a breakthrough and process this pain. So LTP, so Antoinette, she uses the LTP. She's one of my latest clients that has been using it, and it works. And what it does is it literally chops the head off the snake of deception. What is the lie you're telling yourself that's creating the stress? Then what is the truth? And then what is the proof of the truth? Because we will justify some stuff, right? So we need to have proof. So the lie that I had believed for years was, nobody's going to want to marry me. My standards are too high. No one can rise to the occasion. That was a lie from the pit of hell. I've been proposed to multiple times, and the proof of those proposals was the engagement rings that I have. Okay. And some man out there saying, you kept your engagement ring. Let me tell you what, if you can't keep your stick where it's supposed to be, then you lost the ring, brah. If you cheat on me, you lied to me on your intentions towards me, yeah, you don't get the ring back. Take me to court. And let me tell you, my lawyer is ferocious. She ain't no joke. And so Ann also has used it. It works. Let me tell you, this is a simple tool that you can use on a dime. What's the lie you're believing that's creating the emotional overwhelm? What's the truth of the situation? What's the proof of the truth? Okay. And so if you ever are feeling overwhelmed, stop and think about what you're thinking about, because your thoughts create feelings, and your feelings create emotions over prolonged periods of time. And so when we begin to look at how do we begin to break free, LTP is one tool for you to process the pain. My mom wanted to abort me as a little girl, so I carried a spirit of rejection. To this day, I'm still fighting that spirit of rejection. Now, we have chopped layers of that down and what have you, but because my mother wanted to abort me and I was bone of her bone and flesh of her flesh, I felt unwanted from the time I was born. From the time I was born. Now, I associated that she didn't want to have me. She didn't want Brenda in this world. But the truth of the matter was, my mom was sleeping with somebody else's husband. I love my mom, but we all make mistakes that need the blood of Jesus, right? My mom was committing adultery with my biological father, and she was married to my sister's father. That's why I hold the last name Underwood, and that's not my last name. It has no biological bloodline relationship to me. So the story I was telling myself, I'm trying to help somebody here. The story I was telling myself was, look, I'm an unwanted person. I'm an unwanted child. My mom wanted to abort me. But by the grace of God, she chose to have me. Now, as an adult, I understand it wasn't that my mom didn't want to give birth to a child. She didn't want to give birth to her sin to the world. She didn't want other people to know about what she was doing in the dark. So really, that rejection didn't have nothing to do with me. It had everything to do with a cover up so that she can maintain her Christian persona. That's what legalism will make you do. My mom was very legalistic. Wear red lipstick, you're gonna go to hell. Kiss a boy, you gonna go to hell. But first you're gonna get pregnant, and then you're gonna get gasoline draws to go to hell. That's just from kissing a boy. Forget. I don't even know what happens if you had sex with him. If you lie, you go in hell. If you say shut up, you go in hell. Even though my mom could cuss the paint off the walls. Legalism is very double standard, and it creates a need to hide. And so my mother operated in that. And so the story I was telling myself was a lie. The lie was I wasn't wanted. The truth was them little sperm eggs, they fought. Them little sperms fought to get to my mother's aid to birth me. And I thank Pastor Jensen. He does a phenomenal sermon years ago on what it takes for someone to actually get pregnant. The odds are against you, not for you. Okay. And so every pregnancy is a miraculous intervention of science and God. Okay. So I was wanted. So the lie was I was born and unwanted. The truth was I was wanted. God wanted me here. And I had worth before I had birth. Before I took my first breath, I had worth. Is this helping anybody? If this is helping somebody, slap in yes, 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 girl, yes. Let me know, is this helping anybody? And so the lie was I wasn't wanted. The truth was I was wanted by God, and not just by God. My mom evidently had a change of heart and decided to see that birth all the way through. And I was her baby child. So all of my siblings say she's the most spoiled child mama got. My mom had 5 kids and I was the last of 5, and they claimed me as the most spoiled child. And so with that being said, my mom favored me. My mom doted over me. My mom did everything she could to make my world better. And so I had to reframe the story. So the proof was how my mom loved me. And I'm about to tear up because I talked to my cousin who just lost her brother a couple of weeks ago, which was my cousin who passed away. And my family's still grieving quite a bit. But I lost my mom 28 years ago, and I still miss her to this day. I still grieve her to this day. I still wish my mom got an opportunity to see my son born. And so the proof that I was wanted is the love that my mom showed to me, the love that God shows to me, the very fact that I had worth before my birth. He had a purpose for me, and my purpose was to come and help other people live in their purpose, help other people get out of their own way. And I don't believe that God put the molestation and the drugs and all that stuff in my life. But what I do know is God will use all of that from my life to help somebody else get free in their life. I had worth before my birth. You have worth before you were born. God purposed you. God purposed you. And so when we look at our stress levels, we need to stop and we need to get out of that overwhelmed state. We need to reduce our stress levels. We need to capture our thoughts and make them come in obedience to Christ, and not live in fear, and not live in dread, and not live in anxiety. And so I hope that this has helped you understand the mess of stress. And so when we look at tools to avoid burnout that overwhelm often brings, see, overwhelm creates this destructive cycle of a hamster wheel, but you feel like you're going nowhere. You feel like nothing's changing. You feel like nothing's progressing. And burnout is being in a stress state for too long. So let's reduce our stress. Sometimes we need to change up our atmosphere. Sometimes we need to just take a weekend trip. And even if you don't have the funds to go all the way out of town to a beach, you can drive down and take $150 and go stay at the W. Well, not the W, I heard that they had bed bugs, but you can go stay at a hotel in downtown Atlanta and just get a different view, a different scenery, a different vibe. And so I hope that this is helping you. So we're going to get out of the mess of stress and we're going to go into the next one. And our next one is the um, zooming technique. So I want to teach you this zooming technique so that you can learn how to create concentration and focus in your life. And so this technique, this zooming technique, gives you intense focus and clarity. Intense focus and clarity. And who can use more intensity in their focus and in their clarity? Because the number one thing that keeps people from actually achieving their goals is a lack of clarity and fear. And so I want to help you gain some tools that is going to help you gain focus and clarity. And I talk about it all the time, but this is a very specific tool and it's called First You Zoom Out. So the first step, this is the step-by-step guide to this. First, you're going to zoom out to the big picture. So you're going to take, I like to call it the helicopter zoom. So you identify your ultimate goal or desired income. Ask yourself, what's the purpose of this task or project? How does it align with my larger goals? This is where you're zooming out, okay? The big picture. Visualize the end result and how achieving it will impact your life or business. I like to say gain crystal clear clarity so you can get gritty with your goals. And you'll hear this a lot from my long-term customers that have been in 10-week and 16-week coaching journeys with me, talking about getting gritty with your goals. So you're going to zoom out, look at the big picture, and then you're going to zoom in, define the focus. Break the big goal into smaller, manageable steps or milestones. Prioritize the most urgent or impactful tasks to tackle first. I like to take the tasks that are going to get results quickly first. So I like to say you want action that gets traction. Action that gets traction. Action that gets traction. So you don't want to look at just busy work. We took off that badge of honor last week in our live, right? Because overwhelm comes from saying yes too much, comes from overwhelming your calendar. We're taking off that badge of busy and we're moving forward with precision. We're not wasting any steps. So when you look at the zoom in, you want to ask yourself, what is the one thing I can do right now to move closer to my goal? What is the one thing I can do right now to move closer to my goal? Me doing this live moves me closer to building community. I have 3 faithfuls that come every time: Anne, Antoinette, and Dawn. And a few others, I think, from LinkedIn, but I don't get to see the LinkedIn people as clearly as I can see all the others. But with that being said, I'm building community. This is moving me one step closer to building community. I hope that you guys will subscribe. I hope that you guys will hit the ring button. I only go live on Tuesday, so you're not going to get a whole bunch of rings from me. I would love to have a community of 500 women that are getting steak dinners on Tuesdays that help them win from the bedroom to the boardroom, right? Win in your personal life and win in your professional life. And so part of that is saying, how do I take steps that align with my goals? But if we won't take any thought to the future, how can we even begin to process the now? And then, so we're going to zoom out, look at the big picture. We're going to zoom in and define the focus. Then we're going to zoom out again and assess the alignment. Step back and evaluate if the smaller tasks are still aligned with the overall objective. And then adjust priorities or timelines if necessary to stay on track with the big picture. We need to really look at how do we stay on track with the big picture. But if we are one of those that I'm always in the now, always in the now, I can't look to the future. I can't see my nose. I can't see past my nose. I'm just right here, because we're so scared of having an expectation and getting disappointment. Well, you know what? God's not too big for your disappointment. But the scripture is clear that you should have some expectancy for the future. You should write the vision and make it plain. Faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. That means that you have to have some foresight. You need to look into your future, not live in your future. You need to look at your past and learn from it, not live in it, but live in the present. The present should have 80% of your focus. Give 2% of your focus to the past and give the other 8% of your focus to the future, but live in your now, anchored in your future. Okay, so you're going to zoom out again and assess your alignment. You want to make sure that you are scheduling your priorities. Okay, we're almost done. Then we want to zoom out again and take immediate action. So those first 3 zooms are your planning stages. I forget who does the quote, but I think it's maybe John Maxwell who says, the one who doesn't plan has prepared to fail. And maybe Zig Ziglar. You know, I listen to a lot of old school folks, Zig Ziglar, Jim Rohn, Peter Drucker, John Maxwell. And so those are the thought leaders that have been in my head: Tony Robbins, Lisa Nichols, a variety of pastors, T.D. Jakes, and all of those. And so at the end of the day, those first 3 steps are about you getting alignment with exactly what you are going to do that's going to get traction for your actions. You don't want to just be busy. We're taking that badge of honor off. We want to take steps that get needles moved forward. Okay, then, so you're going to zoom in again, take immediate action, focus solely on the next actionable step, eliminate distractions. Look, you want to look, once you have done the whole zoom out, zoom in, and zoom out again, now you're coming to take action. You're not looking at the finish line, you're looking at just the next step. That's going to cut your overwhelm down by 50%. And the overwhelm comes from a fear of inadequacy, a fear of not being able to get it done, a fear of rejection. Get rid of those fears. If God has brought it to your table, He has already equipped you with every single thing you need for it to be beneficial for your life. And you plus God is the majority. Nobody else needs to co-sign on the vision God gave you. I'm in a situation right now where I keep looking to this person to give me signs on, where their head's at. And God was like, they don't know where their head's at. You keep trusting me, keep focused on me, keep praying with me. And I got the rest of that. I was like, okay, God, this is really another level of trust. I can't even read what's around me. He said, no, because your sight will distort your vision. Somebody needs to write that in the chat. Your sight will distort your vision if you trust only your 5 senses. So you zoom in again, take immediate action. Use tools like time blocking or the 80-20 rule. Those are all ways to stay productive. I'm going to give you a few more that I didn't write in my notes. Time blocking, scheduling your priorities first, taking control of your morning, the first hour of your morning, take control of that, because then you'll have a sense of accomplishment where you fed you before you feed everybody else. You want to be flexible with yourself when necessary, but you're not always in panic mode. Not everything is urgent. Don't set your body and your mind in panic mode. You want to say, okay, I've got a block of time, nothing's going on. Let me get laser focused in on this next actionable step, not the whole staircase, just the next step. Then you have the repeat the process. Alternate between zooming out, reviewing the big picture, and zooming in, focusing on specific tasks as needed. This ensures clarity, alignment, and consistent progress towards the goal. Look, I wish all of our goals can be done in 30 days, but like some of your goals are going to take 3 years. Some of your goals may take 5 years. Some of your goals may take 10 years. And you may thought that it was going to take 1 year and it was really going to take 3 years. Fall in love with the process and celebrate the accomplishments. Okay. And then the last step in this is reflect and refine. After completing a task, zoom out to reflect on the progress and refine your approach. Ask, did this move me closer to my goal? What could I improve for next time? You know, WD-40 is WD-40 because he tried 39 times and failed. 39 times and failed. If there was any example of someone having their sight distorted, having their vision distorted, your sight will distort your vision if you only use your 5 senses. WD-40, 39 times trying and failing, trying and failing, trying and failing. That would distort. What he's seeing is, I can't seem to get this formula right. But God had a vision that he would not let go of. And so in that, he finally hit the 40th time, and that formula worked. And now WD-40, that patent on WD-40, his kids is making money and living off of the patent that he had. Thank goodness he didn't allow his sight to distort his vision. If God gave you a vision, baby girl, if God gave you a vision, baby boy, then you keep zooming out and zooming in and analyzing the action that's getting traction and repeating it until you hit that vision. Because the enemy's job, Satan's job, when you hear me say the enemy, I'm talking about Satan. Satan's job is to get you to abort the mission. That's his job, because he doesn't have the power to get you to abort the mission. So he needs to influence you by your sight to get you to abort the mission. That's why I tell people, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you better increase your prayer life, because you're going to have to be so tight with God. You guys are going to be Siamese twins. Because let me tell you, the devil does not want you fulfilling your dream. The devil does not want you to fulfill the God-given vision. Because if you do, you're going to wreak havoc on the enemy kingdom. Because the gifts and the callings are given without repentance. I hope these techniques that I've given you, LTP, I want to call it the focus zone, but the zooming technique, I hope that understanding that extremities creates imbalances, I hope all of this will help you shrink the overwhelm in your world. Now, this is one thing that when I was going through a lot of financial struggles, when my son was much younger, one thing I would do is I would come to God and I put all my bills on my prayer floor, and I was like, God, Isaiah 54:4-5 says that you are my spiritual husband. And that means that spiritual husbands provide. And I'm standing on this word. And there are times where I didn't even know how I was going to pay that tuition at GACS. I have 12 years of financial miracles for God to keep my son at that private school at Greater Atlanta Christian School. But I'm going to tell you, there were some hard days, and there were some days where I was like, God, I don't know how you showing up, where you showing up, why I got to go through this, God. I'm overwhelmed by this financial pressure. Maybe I just pull him out and put him in private school. Put him in public school. But that wasn't God's vision. And so I stuck with God's vision until it manifested. And my son graduated summa cum laude from Greater Atlanta Christian School. And as a single mother who had to literally put on the application, they had married or divorced. In other words, if you had a child out of wedlock, your kid don't belong here. That's That's the subliminal message it sends. I'd have to box in on that paper application single for my son when he was going to GACS, but God saw me through. And so I'm going to tell you, beloved, that these tools that I bring to you, I go through a lot to bring these Tuesday lives to you because, beloved, I want your road to be a little easier than my road was. I told God the other day, I said, I'd like to get some easy for all the hard I've gone through in life. And God showed me how much easy is in my world. And I just want to pass some of that on to you. I want to see people truly break free from bondage, from procrastination, from stinking thinking and toxic mentalities and toxic relationships. Because this life is but a vapor. And what we do in this life dictates how we live our next life. Whether it's an eternity with Him or it's in an eternity without Him. Call it whatever you want. But I want to be in a heaven with a God who has made me triumphant in my life. I have defied odds that would have taken most people out. I've been in a straitjacket 3 times for suicide attempts before the age of 26. But 26 years later, about to be 27 years later, I am standing strong. I am an odds defier. I am going to defy the odds, and I'm going to defy them with the Holy Spirit in me. So I hope that each and every one of you that have watched this live today will consider utilizing these tools and swing back and let me know how it worked for you. If you are interested in being a part of the community, please go to my YouTube channel. Please subscribe. Please click that bell so that you can come to our Tuesday night steak dinners and you can get a breakthrough for life and not a band-aid for now. And so if you are interested in getting a one-on-one discovery call, 45-minute free discovery call where we will sit down and get crystal clear on what a coaching journey could look like for you, for us to accelerate the results that you want to get in your life, I would love for you to visit my website and schedule a free discovery call. 45 to 60 minutes, and we're going to map out a journey. If nothing else, you're going to walk away from that with some clarity on how to move forward to get your breakthrough for life and not a band-aid for now. Now, if you decide you want to actually sign up for coaching, then that's going to be one-on-one dedicated coaching. That's custom coaching made, designed just for you. It is tailor-made to what your dreams, your ambitions are for. It's not cookie cutter. I'm not a cookie cutter box coach where I'm going to give you the 7 steps of success that everybody else had. No, I create a custom coaching journey that is designed specifically for you. And if you talk to any one of my clients, they will tell you, yes, she customized. We may have gone into that coaching session thinking we're going to talk about the fear of failure. And I came into that session and I had just lost my job. I just got fired from my job, and she pivoted right into career coach. And she's like, okay, let's analyze this. Let's get this done. I'm talking about a real client. I'm not making this up. I'm talking about a real client that's going to come and do a video testimony, and she'll be able to tell you herself. But she came into that coaching session. She said, I lost my job today. I said, okay, let's see how we get you the bounce back. Before her coaching was done with me, she had found a better job, negotiated it on her terms, and got everything she was looking for. And she's operating in that job right now today. And so that's the power of a coach. A coach is to help you get swift results and help you get out of your own way. So with that being said, let's see what's going on in the chat. Miss Ann. Great food for thought tonight, Brenda. Thank you so much. You are appreciated. And I so appreciate you. You are so fabulous. Ben from the Hearst. Okay, I don't know who this is, but I'm glad you came. Oh, this was Antoinette. sharing the whole insight on your sight will distort your vision if you only use your five senses. And so I hope that this has been engaging. I hope that this has been empowering. Please come back and let me know what your thoughts were with regards to this. And I look forward to coming to you next week with another live. Hadn't figured out the topic yet, but it's still going to be about work-life balance. I hope that someone will schedule their free discovery call so that I can help more women win at life and thrive. So this is Coach BU, Brenda Underwood from Breakthrough for Life, signing off. Peace and